Hey guys, Santa here. I brought another deck profile, and today it was kind of surprised to find that this was one of the most highly requested decks for post-rotation update. We've got Alakazam EX today. So, before we get into this, if you like anything you see, like the video. If you love what you see, drop a sub. You know, the YouTuber type stuff that you know I gotta say. Alright, that's about enough adieu. So, this deck is basically walls, but it's walls with some tricks, because you get to run this sneaky little guy. And I'm going to talk about this sneaky little guy right now. We run 3 copies of Alakazam, and why is it sneaky? I will absolutely tell you. If you can read that attack, Dimensional Hand, smacks for 120, but it can be used if this Pokemon is on the bench. So, the entire strategy of this deck is to put walls into the active, with a new sneaky tech that we can put into the active. More on that later. But you put annoying stuff into the active position while your Alakazam EX sits pleasantly on your bench, just absolutely causing a ruckus. In my previous profile we were playing 4 copies, but slimmed it down to 3 to be able to include some other spicy techs. So, run 3 copies there. Also, I found my SIR version, so we're definitely using that right now for the profile. Normally I don't play with expensive cards, but if I have them, I will absolutely use them for the deck profile. Now, we're still running 2 Kadabra. We do run a pretty hefty rare candy count in this deck, but we're also running TM Evolution, so I find that 2 Kadabra is pretty nice. Its teleportation attack can also smack for 30, which the astute of you will realize is enough to knock out a Badoo. And it also switches this Pokemon with something on your bench, which is really, really aggressive. If one of your Abras gets trapped in the active position, you can evolve it into a Kadabra and knock out a Badoo, break your item lock, and swap into something annoying. That is to say, we also run 3 Abra. I have slimmed down one of the Abras because we're focusing a little bit harder on rare candies, so I find that 3 is pretty good. I wish we had an Abra that had 70 HP so we were safer from Dragapult, but not everything can have a good Dragapants matchup. Now, for the spicy tech, my buddy actually found this. We're running 2 copies of the new Tyranitar out of Journey Together, which says, in its ability, Daunting Gaze, as long as this Pokemon's in the active spot, your opponent cannot play item cards from their hand. Oh my gosh, this is such a silly, silly card for this deck. A lot of people have been saying that this card could be good in hit and run strategies like Flygon EX or like the Excelgor. I like it in Alakazam. I think it's really, really ridiculous in this deck. We run 1 copy of Pupitar to be able to run into it. This may not be the optimal Pupitar to run, but it's the one I could find the quickest, and frankly I don't think it matters too much because I don't think we're really trying to play the Pupitar. We ideally don't want Pupitar to see the active position. We want only our Tyranitar to be up there, but we're running 2 Larvitar to go with it. It's got the crunch attack, flip a coin of heads, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Doesn't particularly matter, we don't use that a whole lot. This one does have 70 HP, which is really, really good because it is safer from Dragapants. So, if you get Phantom Dived on your Larvitar, you can still survive it. Now, we are still running the Xatu and Natu engine, running a 2-2 line. Clairvoyant Sense is just absolutely silly in this kind of deck. Once during your turn, you can attach a basic Psychic Energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Then draw a card. So this is a Teal Mask Ogerpon for Psychic that can go on to anything, which is very, very strong. Now, moving on to the one-ofs, we do play a whole lot of one-ofs. Play 1 copy of Mew EX. You could potentially replace this with a Fezandipity, but once you see the other Pokemon we're running, you may understand that ideally our stuff doesn't get knocked out, so Fezandipity doesn't really have that high of a value in this deck, so I've been liking the Mew EX a whole lot. It's pretty easy running Ultra Balls and Rare Candies to drain your resources in this deck, so the Mew is really, really nice to gain some of those back. Playing a Flutter Mane. This thing is absolutely silly in this kind of a deck. As long as this Pokemon's in the active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities, so this is super, super good to be shutting down annoying things like Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, which we do play 1 copy of as well. I had to fight myself pretty hard. There's a world where you could run a Fighting type energy, just so you can use Demolish, because this attack isn't affected by weakness, resistance, or by effects on your active Pokemon, or your opponent's active. So there's a situation where you could use this to break walls, but Frankly, running Flutter Mane and also Klefki and having your Alakazam sit on the bench makes it to where you can kind of break walls on your own. There's not really a whole lot of Pokemon that can actually wall you out. As long as this Pokemon's in the active spot, basic Pokemon in play have no abilities, except for Mischievous Lock, of course. We're also playing a copy of Mimikyu, super annoying. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's EX Pokemon and V. There is an argument to be made to run a second copy of Mimikyu, but I've been finding the one to be pretty sufficient. By the time your opponent beats over it, you can kind of put something else in its place. We are still running a 1-1 line of Feebas and Milotic EX, because Sparkling Scales is absolutely stupid to wall your opponent out, prevents all damage and effects from attacks from your opponent's Terra Pokemon. So, the objective of this deck is basically you figure out what your opponent wants to do, and you put one of these 5 Pokemon in the active position to stop them while you swing away from the bench with your Alakazam. Super silly deck. We have also started to include 1 copy of Munkidori. Again, a lot of your Pokemon that you put into the active can't take damage, but that is not to say that you can't get Dragapult Phantom Dive spread damage onto your bench, and Munkidori helps spread that away. And also because we're running the Tyranitar, makes a little bit more sense to include this so that we have multiple uses for our Darkness Energy. So, that is the Pokemon count. Pretty high in this deck. Just because a bunch of our Pokemon are walls. So, it is what it is. Our item count is really straightforward, but we do play a hefty handful of them. Running 4 Buddy-Buddy Poffins. This is absolutely insane. This gets you into so many of your good pieces. This can get you a Larvitar, it can get you an Abra. This can get you into your Feebas to start getting your Milotic going. Absolutely nuts. It also gets you into a Mimikyu or a Klefki. So, there's a lot of really high value targets for Buddy-Buddy Poffin. We're running 4 copies of Nest Ball. Again, we're just running really straightforward with the items in this deck. We really want to be able to get exactly what we want when we want it. Which is to say, we're running 4 copies of Ultra Ball as well. I've bumped this count up since my last deck profile, just because I think it's super strong. And now that we're running the Tyranitar in the deck, it makes a little bit more sense to run multiple Ultra Balls. That way we can get into our Stage 2 Pokemon a little bit easier with the help of 4 rare candies. I believe we were still running 4 rare candies in the last version of the deck, but now that we play Tyranitar, this just has a whole lot higher value, so I think it's very well worth it. And the last item we run is 1 copy of Earthen Vessel. It's just good to get energy cards. There's not a whole lot of energy count in this deck, nor is there a whole lot of energy acceleration. We have the Xatu, of course, so Earthen Vessel lets us search a couple energy cards to be able to use it. Moving on to the supporters, and playing off of the Earthen Vessel, we're also now running a copy of Crispin. This can be really good to attach a Darkness Energy to either your Tyranitar or your Munkidori, and set up a Psychic Energy in hand so you can attach it using your Xatu. So, super good. Crispin, amazing card. Running 1 copy of Iono. I haven't really found a need for multiples, but there's definitely a world where you could run 2 Ionos. I don't think anything more than that is particularly necessary. Running 1 Boss's Orders. Every once in a while, you can't get the right Pokemon into the active position, or you can find yourself an opportunity where you can pull something weak up into the active so that you can smack it with your Alakazam. 1 boss, super good. Running 4 copies of Arven. This is absolutely insane. As you saw, we run a pretty decent item count, and all of our items are really good. So Arven Search is an item and a tool. Very strong, because we are also running 2 copies of Evolution. There is also a world where you could drop one of these for a Devolution. In fact, I might do that in the future, but so far the 2 TM Evo has been working really well. Be able to get you into your Pupitars, Tyranitars, get you into a Kadabra, into an Alakazam. This is a super good card in this deck. Now, moving on to the Ace Spec and the Energies, because they're basically the same thing. We're still running Neo Upper. If you attach this to your Alakazam, you fulfill the energy cost to attack, so super good. And I guess technically you could also smack this onto your Tyranitar, which would give you 2 energies. So if you have a Crispin and a Neo Upper, you can smack them both to You can use them both on your Tyranitar so that you can actually get some really decent movement, because Tyranitar pull him back. Crackling Stomp discards the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So it does have a very worthwhile attack. It's not just in here for the ability. We have altered the energy count only slightly. Instead of running 7 Psychic Energy, we are now running 6, because we are also running 2 copies of Darkness Energy. So that is Alakazam Walls. This deck is super, super silly. I think, honestly, out of the entirety of how long Alakazam has been around, I think this is probably the best it's ever been. So if you're looking to play a super fun rogue deck that runs a Generation 1 Pokemon and runs it really, really well, Alakazam might be the one for you, dude. Oh, my throat, I'm sorry. But Alakazam, super, super strong. You're not going to be taking a whole lot of knockouts with this deck, but you can 2 or 3 shot basically anything in the format. And honestly, with all the annoying Pokemon you put into the active position, there's not really a whole lot they can do to you. So you kind of just sit, plot your revenge, I guess. Not really. Anyway, you kind of just sit around, wait for your opponent to do stuff. Your opponent doesn't do enough stuff, you smack it down. Super, super fun. So if you like the Alakazam profile, drop a like, drop a sub. We're going to be uploading more updated deck profiles. I got this guy coming very, very soon as well. I just finished working on him post-rotation because I love me some Gholdengo. But that is all I got for you for this profile. I've been Santa. You guys have been awesome. This is the Poke Workshop. Thank you so much for being here. Drop a like, drop a sub, share the video with your friend who loves Alakazam. And I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you tomorrow for more Pokemon.